Restarted. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting, the fifth to be held, and, excuse me, the Administration Finance Fire Committee meeting number 5, sorry, of 2018. My name's Councilor Terry Bell, and I will be chairing this committee meeting. I will now call the meeting to order. There's signed-in sheets to your right, and, pardon me, your left. Geez, I'm all messed up tonight. Just read the right ones and sign them if you'd like more correspondence with them. Also, just a reminder, to members of council and the public, that all cell phones, pagers, PDAs are to be turned off. And additionally, for information, we are audio videoing this recording, and you should be able to look at it 24 to 48 hours from now. Are there any changes in order on the agenda? Seeing none. Any disclosure of pecuniary or interest or conflict of interest? Seeing none. Appointments tonight. Procedural bylaws, section 6.5C, scheduled appointments and/or presentations. Each scheduled appointment or presentation shall be allotted a maximum of 10 minutes, exclusive of the time required to answer questions from the members of council. Some exceptions will apply. And we have one appointment tonight. It's item A54-18, Mrs. Pickvance. And when you're done your presentation, if you could give the clerk a copy of it, please.
Yes, I
Thank you.
normally email a copy to Carolyn
Thank you.
tomorrow. Good evening, everyone. I'm here once again to talk about roads. Just let me say that I fully understand the constraints of municipal revenues. I did, spend a fair bit of time during budget deliberations and fully understand what was discussed. I would like to clarify a couple of things relating back to that very quickly. Most of the road improvements being done in Ward 1 were a result of wind turbine construction damage, and they were totally financed by the road agreement settlement. There are no major rural improvements being done from roads being funded directly from revenue streams, in other words, tax dollars. Mr. Julian, you were kind enough to forward me some information on costs around tarring and chipping, and that was again discussed in great detail at budget deliberation. There was one thing, though, in that information that you sent me. You said that from 2017's operation budget, the total cost to maintain 11.44 kilometers of gravel roads was $247,000. If that was just to maintain 11 kilometers and there's 133 kilometers out there, how does that get funded on a regular basis? I mean, certainly at 11 kilometers per year for gravel, grading, and so on, that would place about a 10-year, 12-year timeline to do them all. And certainly gravel should be put down at least every other year, given how quickly it disappears. So if I could get clarification on that. The roads need study. Needs to be shelved. It has been discussed before that it's not serving too much of a worthwhile purpose. It does not acknowledge the needs of residents living on mud roads. And it does not also take into account climate change. And more of that is to follow. But ask any farmer, ask any woodlawn owner, we know the effects of climate change. I recently had a very lengthy conversation with Mike Pearsall, Ministry of Transportation, St. Catharines. 29 years with the MTO and responsible for design management. He admits rural infrastructure has fallen through the cracks. There are no doubt many municipalities in the same boat, large geographically, small tax base. His thoughts on gravel: throwing marbles on a floor. It all scatters. Or putting soap on a sponge. It all disappears into the base. We discuss climate change, and we talk specifically about roads, all kinds of roads, and how climate change should be at the forefront of any election platform. Thinking in terms of climate change, it did put a new perspective on the unpaved roads. If they're not getting gravel as often as they should, two things are happening, and I've lived through it the last couple of years. The winds are stronger, as we all know, and we just went through a really bad windstorm not too long ago. So that creates more dust. The rains fall much harder now. They're very damaging rains in a lot of cases, and a lot of farmers could attest to that fact as well. So that again drives the gravel down into the dirt. So that is impacting the condition of the roads as well. Anyhow, it just makes the argument stronger that rural roads need to be hard surfaced for sustainability alone. That gives the road a longer life shelf and certainly is much easier for residents to live with. Mr. Purcell also made a suggestion that would certainly help with our current situation. And that is that the municipality take on some of the road's improvements rather than tendering out the whole project. This would substantially reduce the cost to bring a road up to a hard surface standard. He provided me with costs in all areas, noting that engineering costs were not required when work is done in-house. The township has the expertise, increased staffing, an upgraded fleet of equipment and machinery. A contractor would be required to do the actual tar and chip. I was astounded when he was spelling out cost to me and how much different that was. He went on to say that another township has been working with this plan, and he has been providing them guidance, and that is the town of Kincardine, a little smaller in population, but bigger geographically, and probably impacted even more by harsher winter weather. This suggestion certainly has merit. Let's consider concession 3, unfinished portion, with an unopened road allowance, which should have been dealt with decades ago. It's ridiculous to see a moving van or the truck that applies calcium applications to have to back down the road. And we're also pretty tired of it being the ATV capital of Caister Center. It was also noted in our conversation as to why concession 3 was not completed end-to-end in the first place, which is the norm for most roads. We understand a time differential in there that it might have taken 2, 3, 4 years, but it's been 8 years, and that middle section is still unfinished. An approval such as this by the township could certainly start the ball rolling. A good starting point would be to involve the region, perhaps with resources and funding. No doubt funding and long-term debt are going to have to be considered as well. Perhaps, Madam CAO, your experience in working with the province could help secure some additional funding. I am asking for the following tonight. I would respectfully request a recommendation to shelf the current roads needs study, as it does not support the residents. I would also respectfully request a recommendation be made for a plan to be initiated to commence in-house work on rural infrastructure upon completion of costing, funding, and scheduling. Mayor Joyner, you told me to my face in private that my road would never be fixed. Would you have told user groups that West Lincoln could not afford a new arena? Bearing in mind roads are necessities, recreation is an amenity. Is this not a double standard? Proper services matter for 2,000 plus rural folks. Let's never forget the value of farmland and forest cover. That in itself warrants decent, sustainable infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pickvance. Questions? Thank you. Okay. 5, request to address any items on the agenda. Is there anyone in attendance? Seeing none. Next up is item A 55-18, Chief Fisher, monthly update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Busy month for the fire service. Station 1 had 30 calls, Station 2 had 11, and Pelham had 2 down at the east end. A few things. We had our recruitment open house on May the 8th. Wasn't really as good turnout as I was anticipated, but we did take in 8 applications. Fire prevention, the Regional Fire Prevention Association is doing a campaign that West Lincoln is participating in. It's called Test It Tuesday. It's on May the 29th. Test your smoke alarms and your carbon monoxide alarms. So we're going door to door on the 29th. A few things over the month. Of course, our Emergency Services Public Works Open House is tomorrow from 10 to 1. We had 2 mutual aid calls in Grimsby. Grimsby came up from to help us for 2 calls. And we had our fire department funeral for Deputy Chief McIntyre. From me, the firefighters from both stations, just want to say thank you for the support over the last couple of months. It's been kind of tough. Otherwise, we'll move forward and we'll get through, but I do have a couple of guys that are struggling. So, other than that, it's been pretty quiet activity-wise.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any questions or comments? Seeing none? Okay, thank you. Consent agenda. Item A 56-18, 1, Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, minutes of April 12th, 2018. 2 is West Lincoln's Mayor Youth Advisory Committee, minutes of April 4th, 2018. 3 is the West Lincoln Age Friendly Advisory Committee, minutes of April 6th. 4 is Information Report, number RFD-T-12-18, April 2018 Budget Status Report. And 5 is a Recommendation Report, RFD-T-11-18, Development Charge Reserve Fund Treasurer's Annual Statement 2018. And 6 is Recommendation Report, RFD-T-10-18, 2018 Tax Rate Bylaw. And the recommendation to the Administration Finance Fire Committee hereby approve the following consent agenda items. 1, item 1 be and hereby accepted, and items 2, 3, 4 be and hereby received for information, and item 5, 6B and are hereby received, and that the recommendations contained therein be adopted with the exceptions of items. Seeing no items. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Bilsma and Councilor Gadan. All those in favor? Carried. Communications, seeing none. Staff reports. Item A57-18, Treasurer Director of Finance. Report RFD-T-13-18, Amendment to Tendering and Purchasing Policy. And recommendation that the report RFD-T-13-18 regarding the amendment to tendering and purchasing policy be received, and that the CAO purchasing authority be increased from 75,000 to 100,000, and that 3, that the clause 43448196 in Schedules B be amended as indicated in Appendix A, and that this report to recognize the increase to the CAO's purchase authority from 75,000 to 100,000, and that the above changes be made effective June 1st, 2018. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Chichek and Councilor Gadan. Any questions, comments? No. Mayor Jeremy?
So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Still haven't fixed it. You just,
There we go, thanks. So this is effective as of June 1st, 2018. The actual season where we don't have any jurisdiction over this is what date? Is that July 31st? That after July 31st? 27th?
Through you, July 27th would be the day if it came into effect.
Okay, thank you.
is that,
Just to remind me, Mr. Chair, through you, in July, we only have one meeting, am I right?
that's correct, one in
So-
July, one in August.
Right, so since we're not going to be here for most of July, regardless of the fact that there could be a lame duck council,
Yes.
it would be appropriate, I think, to start at July the 1st, or June 1st.
June 1st,
Get
yeah.
her warmed up while we're still here.
Any more questions? Okay, you good with that? Any more questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. Other business, item A58-18, Treasurer's Finance. It's a memo update to the water and wastewater rate bylaw. Anything you want to say, Donna?
Through you, Chairman Bell, to council. This is a housekeeping item. During the 2018 budget process, council approved a 5% increase to water and wastewater rates to be effective July 1st, 2018. So this is just to advise council that at the council meeting at the end of the month, you will be presented with a bylaw that formalizes that increase.
Thank you. B is item A59-18. Ms. Langley, memo bylaw to delegate specific authority to CEO.
Through you to members of the committee, as previously discussed, a bylaw to delegate authority to hire or dismiss employees during lame duck is appropriate. Therefore, we have a bylaw also coming onto the council agenda that will provide that authority to the CAO.
I need a mover and a seconder for that. Councilor Chichek? No meter, oh, sorry, not needed, sorry, wrong one. Yep, apologize. Okay, C is item A, 60-18, CAO, employee professional accomplishments. Madam CAO?
Thank you. This is something I'm learning as I'm joining the organization, that the CAO gives an update on employee professional accomplishments, and I think it's a great thing that we do. So in this case, we have one of our staff members, Andrew McMurtry, has completed and passed his Part 9, the House Building Envelope 2012 OBOA course.
Great.
Congratulations, Andrew.
Yeah. Super. Thank you. Okay, next is D, item A 61-18, expression of interest, St. Martin's Catholic Elementary School. Everybody get comfortable. Okay, the recommendation. Whereas in accordance with the Ontario Regulation 444/98, the Niagara Catholic District School Board has now forwarded a letter to the Township of West Lincoln dated March 7, 2018, which advises that St. Martin Catholic Elementary School at 186 Margaret Street, Smithville, is no longer required by the board. Whereas the letter dated April 13, 2018, the Royal Canadian Legion Senior Citizens Complex Branch 393 notified the Township of West Lincoln of their interest in the building new affordable housing units on the open land and developing the school as a community center for seniors at 186 Margaret Street, and whereas St. Martin's School site adjacent to our downtown core and a vacant 3-acre site owned by the Township of West Lincoln, which makes this property a significant property to assist to Smithville, or asset, pardon me, to Smithville and our future growth, and whereas the community hub, Ontario assists assets, local municipalities, and repurposing public property to provide many benefits for communities, including long-term care homes, senior housing, affordable housing, and recreational and youth program support. Whereas the province announced in April 2018 a new comprehensive social purpose real estate strategy that requires the needs of local communities to be considered when it comes to the disposition and acquisition and use of public property and infrastructure planning. Whereas the strategy includes a surplus property transition initiative that may see the province provide funding to cover property holding costs such as ongoing operating and maintenance costs for up to 18 months during the community group will be able to fund additional partners and develop a long-term business plan for transition projects into the community. Now therefore, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of West Lincoln hereby directs staff to notify the Niagara Catholic District School Board of the joint interest in St. Martin's Elementary School building at 186 Margaret Street by submitting an expression of interest no later than June 5th, and that the coordinating such an expression of interest requires additional time up to 18 months within which to investigate the needs of the local community as announced in the Comprehensive Social Purpose Real Estate Strategy, April 2018. Further, that staff be and is hereby authorized to explore the concept of a community hub at 186 Margaret Street that may include a variety of different uses, services, and partners to be determined through the investigation, and that the CAO be delegated authority to make an application to the province under the Community Hub program as required in order to secure their support, and that staff report back to Township Council no later than August 13th, 2018 meeting of staff findings and the need to submit an offer to purchase and the subject property no later than September 3rd, 2018, in accordance with the school board letter dated March 7th, 2018, and an alternate date as supported by the school board in response to the expression of interest. I need a mover, Councillor Chichak, seconder, Councillor Cadan. Any questions and comments? Councillor Bilsma?
Yeah, so this has come up a couple times, and just at this, at the outset, then I have a couple of questions with regards to the general strategy. Is it, so the local Legion Villa Board Executive, and we had that little presentation last week, are they asking us to purchase the land on their behalf, or are we are they, like, my understanding is that there's a bit of a cascade of offers when these surplus lands come into. So I'm going to ask my question, and then maybe somebody could volunteer to answer it if they have the answers. There's a cascade of offers. It's made to the other school boards, it's made to the municipality, then it's made open to the public. And so I'm wondering if we bypass, if we negate this, does the Legion Villa still have an opportunity to buy this privately? Or are they asking us to do this, own the land, and then they would build something on that? Or are they asking us to buy it, and they'll pay us back? Or, so what's the strategy?
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
Please help me if need. If I recall, going back the last year, the villa come forward, they're looking for property to expand because they're full.
Yeah, I remember that.
We offered to work with the villa to help them find property and move forward, which we've been doing, working with the villa. This property at St. Martin's has now become available.
Correct.
And we have an opportunity as the township to show interest in it. On behalf of the villa, they've asked us, could we do that, show interest? We said, when the presentation was there, that we could do that. This offer of interest is that it's twofold. We're going to show interest in it. We may purchase it, we may not. Is it on behalf of the villa? Not directly at this point, but it could be down the road. So because this has to be completed by the 5th, that's why it's before us now. And personally, I don't have a problem showing interest to purchase. We need to move forward. If this partnership, they're looking to put something there, whether it be on that full area, including the school or what, that's to be determined at a later date. But right now, the question is, we need to make an offer to the school to show them that we're interested. We want to show interest. That's kind of where it's at. There's no commitment, to my knowledge, on this property. We're just showing them we're interested and we're going to go forward with that. And then come the fall, we'll get more in depth. I don't know if that, Councilor Chichak and
I think maybe it would be best coming from the CAO as to the intent of her motion. But in reading this, it's very clear that it's not with the Legion. The Legion could be a partner at some point in the future. The report states that we would be looking for partners.
Okay, so that's
So the
that's
villa,
fine. Yeah, that's-
and Mr. Chairman, perhaps we
ahead.
should go to Ms. Henry, because I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I'm interpreting it slightly differently, is that, yes, they're going to be in the catchment of what people we would engage if we want to partner for a community hub. So perhaps if I give it to,
Madam CAO,
You're on. Oh, now you're off.
you're on.
oh,
This
you're-
fuzzy thing off.
I'm going to get this. So thank you for the question and the potential clarification. And I think what I can say is that when the request came forward, the request, because we are a government agency and when those surplus properties come forward, we are given the first right, which is why the Legion Villa asked us to participate in that. And I also believe that they were potentially only looking for a portion of that piece of property, but that's yet to be determined. So what's sort of new from what's happened in the past is that I think they're starting to recognize that when a public property comes up and is surplus, it should be offered and used and potentially used by another public agency where appropriate. But they're also sort of seeing that they come up really quickly and you can't make a decision just off the cuff. So they're saying, they're giving this surplus property transition initiative that would assist and actually give us a little bit more time to figure out the strategy for that area, especially because it abuts the other 3 acres of municipal property that is in that area. And we wanted to see, and that's where the sort of the hub idea comes into play. So I don't know, and I'll leave my answer at that, and if you want more clarification, please let me know.
That's Councilor Bilsma.
Okay, there was some answers given there. So I understand a little bit of the protocol about trying to give us, take advantage of the fact that have the first, or a higher priority right of refusal than if it went into the open public. The second concern that I have at this time is ultimately it's the CAO that may be the one that has to carry a vision for this. This is a concern that, not that I distrust the CAO, but we are coming into a season of elections, and so our intentions at this time might be very different than a future council. And so I'm just concerned if what's the potentiality of binding the hands of a future council, or are we just basically buying time so that a future council can actually consider this? Is that part of the strategy of putting the offer in at this time, or this offer?
Madam CEO?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Bosma. I think what this does is it does give us a bit of more time to figure this out, and we'll actually learn a little bit more about this transition initiative and what does a community hub, like what makes a definition of a community hub in terms of their funding opportunities. And again, with the timing for the notice to give a clear indication, I'm asking the clerk, it was September when we had to potentially give a notice or a potential offer.
Through you, the intent has to be submitted shortly.
Right.
The offer would be September. However, perhaps through these discussions, we would find an opportunity to extend that and explore this initiative and then potentially address it with the new council. But this is just to put in our expression of interest, to do an investigation and report back, and hopefully get an opportunity to extend this and present a plan that may be of interest if that is determined to be, a viable issue.
Okay, so this is just basically the first step.
That's it.
We understand at this point. Okay, I think I've got enough answers at this point, so thank you very much.
Councillor Rayner, I apologize.
That's fine, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I believe this was discussed a long time ago, when previous council changed the zoning on the residential to allow the Catholic elementary school to be built there. This council came in knowing that that school was going to come up, and I believe there was discussions before the MERS situation happened that there was the possibility of a community seniors facility for that. There was other discussions of what we could use it for, and I believe one of the financial ones that we came up with, which made a lot of sense, would be that we purchase it and sell it to the highest bidder and use it to offset some costs in the cost of the MERS project. So to me, this is a business transaction. This is an opportunity for the township to pick up a piece of property because we're basically first in line of right of refusal. And then to me, it has to be looked at in all the different possible uses that we can do for it, taking into consideration the needs of the community or the potential profitability and paying down of a major project. So I think these are the things that can be used with it, but the first point is that we should put our interest of purchase on the line right now so that we have the best chance of getting this property. And I guess the decision after that will be probably made by next council.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other? Okay. Haven't heard the recommendations. All those in favor? Carries. Oh, sorry, apologize. Mayor Joyner?
So I read this, and where I have a little bit of confusion with this is the last paragraph. The staff report back to Township Council no later than August 13th. That's our last council meeting. So I understand that. Council meeting, staff findings, and they need to submit an offer to purchase the subject property no later than September 3rd. So the only offer that can be presented on September 3rd would come from the CAO. Not from council, because we're in lame duck. And as we talked about earlier, July 27th is the last day that we have any say. And the report says in here that we bumped it up from 75,000 to 100,000. So unless we can buy this property for under 100,000, I don't see how the CAO can make an offer. Please, somebody correct me on that.
But I think also at the last, or an alternate date as supported by the school board in response to the expression of interest. So they could have, Madam CEO?
So as I understand it, that's where our negotiating skills come in to push that date back from September 3rd then. Is that how I am to understand that?
Go ahead, Madam CEO.
So I think to be helpful at this point, we have a lot of homework to do. We have a lot of phone calls to make and get a lot more information. And I can report back in, at the June meeting with whatever information I have at that point, which might assist. And then take it from there, because you're correct, I'm not going to be making, or not going to be committing this council to a purchase, and I have no authority to do so. So my task, I think, at hand is between the Director of Planning and Building, is we're going to be doing some investigation, and then we'll understand the protocols and the details of these programs which have just come up, and make sure that we're providing the best advice for council's direction.
Okay. Any others? None? Yep. Okay, all those in favor? Carries. Okay, item A 62-18, members of committee verbal updates from members or boards. Anybody? Nothing? And F, item 63-18, other business, items of informative nature. Seeing none.
It's confidential.
New business, seeing none. And next is 12, confidential matters. Item A 64-18, clerk, personal matters, acceptable closed session exceptions, labor relations or employee negotiations. Recommendation that the clerk be and is hereby directed to proceed as authorized in closed session with respect with a personal matter. B is item A 65-18, CAO, various personal matters, acceptable closed session exemption, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations. Verbal update. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Bilsma, Councilor Kuchar. Questions, comments?
Could I add,
No, can't add.
Sorry.
okay?
Okay, heard the recommendation. All those in favor? To go into closed. Carried. I always forget to go into closed.